Good morning, everyone. My name is Tess Harris, and I'm opening the Staff Hearing Officer meeting for July 23rd, 2025. We'll go to preliminary matters. Are there any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of agenda items? We did not receive any. I did want to make a couple announcements. So we have there was a hearing regarding on June 25th, 2025, item 2A, 1533 State Street, also referenced as 1529 State Street, for an approved open yard modification to provide less open yard square footage than required. This project, staff received a letter for this project after the appeal deadline, so the project was not appealed, and the person that wrote the letter will be receiving a response from staff shortly, so just wanted to acknowledge that. So then I'll move on. I also have an announcement of a staff hearing officer decision on a coastal development permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 1108 Luneta Plaza. That is case number PLN 2024-00494, APN 045-222-005. It's in the appealable and non-appealable jurisdictions of the city's coastal zone, Santa Barbara Municipal Code. The project consists of a proposal to construct a new 1,000 square foot single-story detached standard accessory dwelling unit with a covered porch on an 11,359 square foot lot. The parcel is developed with a 1,949 square foot single-story single-unit residence with an attached 440 square foot two-car carport, which is proposed to be demolished and rebuilt. So that there are the discretionary application that's under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officers, the coastal development permit, and to determine that the project is categorically exempt. So it is exempt from further environmental review under section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, which allows for construction of a second dwelling unit in a residential zone. And I just wanted to note that I did go to the site. I met with the property owner and got to see the site. I had really no concerns for the ADU. So I will be approving the project, and my decision is not appealable. And I also wanted to just make note of the conditions of approval for the project, just to make sure that the applicant is aware. So there are, let's see. And just I know we have the applicant in the room. I assume you've read through the draft conditions of approval and are comfortable with them, but just wanted to confirm that with you. So there were general conditions: approved development, uninterrupted water flow, areas available for parking, and compliance with requirements, approval limitations, the litigation indemnification agreement, and then some requirements prior to permit issuance. Are you comfortable with those? Great. And then construction implementation requirements. And then we also have the time limit section as well. So just making sure that you're aware of all of that. And with that, I will go ahead and approve the coastal development permit. It's really consistent with the neighborhood. I did notice you have a neighbor that's also appears to be seeking an accessory dwelling unit as well. And the area around you is certainly built out and makes a lot of sense. So I hope that everything goes smoothly, and I wish you all the best. And I did want to note that we did receive a public comment from the property owner as well for that item. Okay. So now we'll open it up for public comment. This is for public comment that are for items that are not on today's agenda. Anybody in the room that wishes to speak? Seeing none. Anybody, Ms. Gu, online? No? Seeing none. All right, we will close public comment. And then move on to the next agenda item for item 2. So one moment, please. All right. So item 2 is for 1108 Lunetta Plaza. Oh, apologies. That was the first one we've already announced. All right. So item 2 is for 1703 La Coronia Drive. It's for an open modification. I'm going to go ahead and read the project description. The 7,111 square foot site is currently developed with a 1,595 square foot residence and a 439 square foot attached garage. The project consists of a proposal to construct a 125 square foot second story deck with a spiral staircase in the rear yard. The discretionary application required at this hearing under the purview of the Staff Hearing Officer is an open yard modification to allow the required 1,250 square foot of open yard to be reduced. The project also qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under Section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. So now I will turn it over to staff, who will provide a presentation on the project.
Ms. Gu, are you able to put up the PowerPoint? Thank you. Did I do something?
This one's not showing.
I clicked something. There you go. Thank you, Ms. Harris, for the introduction. Kelly Broadison with Community Development. Yes, 1703 Coronia. This slide will show the project site. What am I doing here? There we go. So you can see the project is kind of, if you go up Carrillo Hill, it's to the east, and just as Carrillo Hill turns into Meigs and it's north of Cliff Drive, it's not technically, it's kind of the northern side of the mesa near Honda Valley Park. Here's a picture of the front of the house. You can see it's a one-story house with a large front yard. And here's a picture of what they wanted to. Now, this property has a very small, unusually small backyard, and it's an irregular shape, kind of a hexagon shape. And they're asking for an open yard mod. Open yard are intended to promote desirable living conditions and a sense of openness, and provide useful space for the occupants of the residence. The municipal code says that lots of 5,000 square feet or greater, which this lot is, has to provide a minimum of 1,250 square feet of open yard with a minimum dimensions of 20 by 20. It has to be open from the ground upwards, and all required yards shall be in one area or multiple areas. They can be located within the front yard except shall be located outside the primary front setback and outside the first 10 feet of a secondary setback. So this slide shows the existing site plan. There's an existing covered trellis that will be removed, shown there in red. And then on the right-hand side of that slide, you can see the proposed second floor deck with the spiral staircase. So the existing residence on the site is currently non-conforming to the open yard. You can see the odd shape of the backyard and that the trellis or the covered trellis there is in red. They have about 1,307 square feet. However, only 1,183 square feet meet the minimum dimensions of 20 by 20. So this 125 square foot deck will further reduce, well, it will encroach into the non-conforming open yard, further reducing it. So upper story decks are allowed to encroach about 3 feet into the open yards. But the posts that support the deck and the spiral staircase are not, which is what's mainly triggering the open yard mod. For these reasons, the applicant's requesting an open yard mod to further reduce the non-conforming yard from 1,183 to about 1,170 square feet. So although the upper level deck does not qualify as open yard per the standards that I've mentioned before, open from the ground up, 20 by 20. The parcel is a pie-shaped lot and is relatively small, and there is also ample space that acts as open yard in other areas of the property. So, as I suggest in the staff report, the front yard. So, for these reasons, staff is in support of the open yard mod, as it is consistent with the general purposes of the RS-15 zone and necessary to secure this appropriate improvement on the lot. Also, the design review board reviewed the project, and they were fine with this very small size of the requested deck and the scale. And it does not decrease the functionality of the area below the deck. You can still use that area on the ground floor. And the deck provides an amenable, nice open yard space for the second floor, or for the people in the second floor. So staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the open yard mod, making the findings in the staff report. We have the applicant here, Liz Anderson? Liz Hughes from Tom Oxner's office, that is also here to make a presentation.
Great, thank you, Ms. Brodesson. Appreciate the review from staff. Hi, Ms. Hughes. Anything you'd like to add?
I think Kelly gave a very thorough presentation of what we're proposing for this project. You can see on the proposed site plan, there's an area to the right of the existing residence that is a big triangular shaped space that the occupants are currently using as part of their usable open yard, even though it's non-conforming to the dimensions. There's actually a door from the dining room or the kitchen area going out to that so it's a little seating area out there for them. The other thing that we've been discussing with SFDB is the privacy concerns between this property and the neighboring property to the right, on the side where the deck is located. And what we've been discussing with them is to provide some additional landscaping along the property line in order to maintain the privacy of the neighboring occupants. And that concludes my presentation. I think we kind of covered it all already, so.
Great, thank you very much. I have a couple questions before I make the decision. But first, before that, I just wanted to note that I did read the staff report, which was very thorough, and I went to the site and was not able to connect with the property owner, but walked sort of around at least the front area of the site and then the adjacent area as well. Ms. Hughes, I did have some questions around the privacy concerns that you mentioned. Has the property owner connected with the neighbors and had that conversation? are they in conversation at least to try to work that through?
So the property owners have been discussing, the primary concern from the SFDB was the neighbor to the right, if you're looking at the front of the property. And the neighbors have been discussing with, or the property owners have been discussing with that neighbor, and the neighbor, as far as what I've heard, is happy with what's proposed and
Okay,
doesn't
great.
have any concerns. But we still did want to address SFDB's concerns, considering that it's more of a general privacy for any occupant or future occupant of that building. The neighbor to the left of the property the deck is pretty far from that location. There's also an existing orange tree that's about 14 feet tall that provides some privacy between that neighbor. And I know that the property owners do not want to look onto that property in any way, so they've been pretty sensitive about trying to keep the deck as far to the right as possible. There's also a neighbor behind the property, but there's some pretty dense existing landscaping between their building on the neighboring property. So there's a lot of screening there already, and so that particular parcel doesn't have a privacy concern, although the neighbor did come to the last hearing, and she was concerned about the neighbor on the right. So that's the one we've been looking at the most to try and mitigate.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ms. Hughes. The one other sort of question I had out there, so it does look like there's a mix of, one-story and two-story homes in the general vicinity. And I assume that that there's an interest in the deck because of views and being able to see the ocean. And I just wanted to make sure that the applicant, is aware of the potential for properties in the neighborhood or adjacent to them in the future to be developed, and that, that the city does not protect private views, and just wanting to make sure that that they acknowledge that.
Yes, the owner's aware of that.
Okay, great.
We did also look at this, originally we were looking at a second-story addition, but the owner was really just wanted to make the smallest move possible in order to capture that view for the time being, and so they understand that things can change in the future.
Okay, great. Great. Well, in terms of the open yard modification, this is a really, fairly straightforward site. The site is limited, as Ms. Brodesson explained. There is limited space in the rear yard. However, a deck really seems like a reasonable ask for that open yard modification, still allowing the property owner to have to experience the outdoor environment and use their outdoor space. So I see no problem with the open yard modification. And with that, I will go ahead and approve the project, subject to the findings that are in the staff report. So we have the finding for environmental review. So the project does qualify for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15301 of CEQA. And 15301 allows for small additions to existing structures. And then the second recommended finding or finding for approval of the project is the finding for the open yard modification. The modification is consistent with the general purpose of the RS-15, the residential single unit zone. The proposed upper level deck and the access stairs are really an appropriate improvement, given the size of the lot and irregular shape as well. And it really will reduce the open yard by a very minimal amount and provide an outdoor amenity that I think is really beneficial for the occupants of the house. I think also, sort of that update is in keeping with the neighborhood and will just improve the overall site. So, so with that, I approve the project. Ms. Gu, can you move it over? Thank you. So the decision of the staff hearing officer is appealable or can be appealed to the planning commission. if received within 10 calendar days, and also any member of the Planning Commission could suspend my decision within that same 10 calendar day time frame should they see fit. And so with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting for July 23rd, 2025 for the Staff Hearing Officer. Thank you very much to staff, Ms. Gu and Ms. Hughes for being here.